Circle of Hope Pastors here. This is our video cast series. People are actually asking us questions that we want to answer. So this is a medium in which to do that. So pastors, Rachel, Joshua, Ben, how do you pray? This is a real personal question. You know, it isn't how does one pray? People want to know, how do the pastors actually pray? What kind of spiritual life do they have and how do they foster it? So this is personal, it's not prescriptive. This is about what you're doing, not about what we should all do. Ben, how do you pray?
In fits and starts. I've been fighting a long time to be able to get up in the morning. I think that's my best time because I have small children and I have to beat them up. Not like hit them, but like I have to get up before them. And I read a book when I was 20 years old that it captured my imagination for connecting to God. I actually have a copy of it here. I just ordered a new copy because I like to give it out. It's called Invitation to Love by Father Thomas Keating. And the key to that kind of transformation that he teaches is centering prayer, which many people have heard of, and there are lots of other books about it too. And I keep having to find ways to make it fresh. I go through seasons where like, blah, I'm not doing it. Like this morning, I sat in my spot for 20 minutes doing it. But mostly I just listened to the birds and got distracted by the sunrise. And I think that's okay. I don't want to feel bad about like succeeding at it or not. So I spent some time in quiet. The most recent kind of innovation that I have is I got a new app that rings a little Tibetan bowl. It's on my phone. It's totally artificial, but it helps me get centered. And I like the new thing to keep me energized all the time in my practice. So that's what I did this morning. That's what I've been trying to do recently.
Thanks for sharing, Ben. How about you, Rachel? How do you pray?
I also get up early in the mornings and I pray with a pencil. I have found it really helpful to go through scripture. Right now I'm going through the book of Acts and I take a couple of verses each day and I copy them into my journal. And then I write down what I think God is saying to me through the scripture and what he wants me to do with it. And so that process kind of gets me in touch with where I am with God, how I'm feeling, and where I want to go. And I think I love that morning time. I also sit in a spot in my house where I can hear the birds and see the birds. But I've learned over the years, like if you can't have that particular quiet time of day that you really want, that's okay too. I talk to a lot of young parents who they long for this kind of contemplative life with God that they really can't get. And I learned, I had those struggles too, and I learned to practice the presence of God, like whatever was going on in my life, that God would be with me in every situation. And I think that's important in going for any spiritual discipline, to realize that it's not going to work out perfectly. We've just got to keep trying to show up.
Yeah, I really love what you're saying, Rachel. I'm kind of the same way. I figure out what works for me. And one of the things over the years that has is fasting. Now, Lent is a season of fasting, but there are other times that you can do it. And when I fast and even withdraw from eating for a little while, my typical kind of cerebral self changes. I often will, before my emotions can hurt me, they become thoughts. And fasting puts me in a vulnerable place to actually feel how God is moving in my life and in the world, and makes me sympathetic to even his, what disturbs him in the world, and how he wants to change it, and how he wants to use me too. And so that vulnerability that I feel when I fast really helps unlock desire, emotion, and things that I can mute just with my thoughts and other coping mechanisms. And so that's been a great benefit to my prayer life and my spiritual life too. How about you, Joshua?
You're deep people. Appreciate your sharing of how even it doesn't work sometimes. I mean, one thing I just would confess is I'm not much of a morning person. It doesn't necessarily get me going real early at this point. my life, but I can wake up with the most stressful things to me on my mind right away. And one of the things that I do daily to deal with that reality of just how I'm experiencing this season of life is to list at least 12 things that I'm sincerely grateful for. And it could be pretty general. Sometimes they're super specific, and just sit with them and read over them a few different times and start like a basic breath exercise that could turn in. Sometimes it's just counting, sometimes it's breath prayers. But my Nina, my former cellular apprentice who now leads a cell, taught me the basic way to breathe in for 7 seconds, to hold it for 7 seconds, to breathe out for 7 seconds, and to do that cycle 4 times. And sometimes I do it with my hand and my heart, and considering these bits of gratitude that I just have been sitting with. And I also try to get outside, touch something created by God, touch creation, and then, you know, I have a few different little things that I try to get the prayer into my body with, like stretching and stuff. Whatever, you know, these are really interesting, I think, because you could see how the pastors at different stages of our lives are try to modulate. We try to stay connected to God, to stay rooted, even when we're either limited or when we're firing on all cylinders. So we have a lot of basic resources that you should definitely try. Circle of Hope Daily Prayer, you can find on circleofhope.net. The Way of Jesus is our basic way that we say to get from here to there in faith, and has tons of suggested practices and theology about reflections and ways to study the scripture, like we were talking about. But I think just trying something, trying it regularly, having an intention and having a discipline just makes a lot of room in your heart to be filled up and to act as a connected person with Jesus, as your fullest self.
I hope this was beneficial to you and helpful. We want questions like this. We want to share, respond to things that you're wondering about. So if you like this, pass it around, like it. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's on our website too. And keep asking us questions. We're looking forward to journeying with you into the tomb during Holy Week next week. God be with you.